Now, Russia is hammering across all fronts, from carrying out devastating strikes across key Ukrainian cities on a daily basis to mounting pressure on the front lines. With no end to the war in sight and stalled ceasefire talks, the United States, hoping for a breakthrough, appears to be indicating a change in its strategy. Take a look at this report.
Ukraine is under siege. In a major escalation in the ongoing war, Russia unleashes a massive aerial assault on Kyiv and several other Ukrainian cities. These are the images of an intense firefight over the night sky in Kyiv. Tracers from air defenses shoot into the sky as orange flames illuminate the smoke plumes over the capital city. Ukraine claims its air defenses shot down 56 of the 88 Shade drones that Russia launched across the country. The Russian drone strike caused a massive fire in Kyiv, gutting multiple residential and commercial buildings. Firefighters battled for hours to control the devastating blaze. As fears of renewed Russian offensive grows, Ukraine is pushing its youth to handle firearms on the front lines. Women are being trained in shooting and providing first aid in the times of crisis.
Very cool. I didn't even think I could hit the target. I thought it was too high. There's even a 9 mark I hit. I am very pleased. I wish it was an alive, then I would shoot even better.
You know, it is very interesting here, and I want to feel more what is happening right now. That is how we are closer to our boys, our soldiers. We help them, and we want to feel it more on ourselves, what soldiers are going through.
President Zelensky says Russia is amassing over 70,000 troops to launch a new offensive in north. The Ukrainian military chief warns there is almost a doubling of the offensives in all major areas. The long-dragged truce negotiations is frustrating President Trump. His special envoy Steve Witkoff, who held talks with Putin on Friday, has pitched a new strategy to broker peace. Witkoff is learnt to have proposed to give Russia ownership of 4 eastern Ukrainian regions. It attempted to annex illegally in 2022. These include Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhzhia, and Kherson. With Kyiv and Washington haggling over a deal for resource rights, President Trump is making tougher demands. Washington wants to claim all profit from minerals until Kyiv repays the equivalent of the US aid received during the war, plus 4% annual interest. Ukraine is treading very carefully. It hasn't rejected the new American demands outright. It is mindful how past refusals had strained US-Ukraine relations. From framing potential territorial concessions to a tougher minerals deal, US appears to be indicating a change in its strategy to push ceasefire. But for its allies, Trump lacks a clear plan to end the war even after 3 months of taking office. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
All right, now to give us more perspective in terms of what is happening in the Russia-Ukraine war, we're joined by Mr. Fred Weir, who's a journalist and also a political commentator. He's joining us live from Moscow. Mr. Weir, considering that the negotiations are going back and forth, one would hope that the ceasefire must be close by. But on the ground, though, what we're witnessing is that the intensity of the war is actually getting more worse. Russia is mobilizing soldiers and is bracing for attacks in places such as Sumy and Kharkiv. And apart from this, what we are also beginning to hear is that the American proposal effectively indicates that Ukraine should cede land to Russia. Is this how a ceasefire will come about?
Well, hopefully, and hopefully soon, because this is the advent of springtime, which is fighting season down there. As soon as the ground hardens, the Russians do plan, by most accounts, to launch a massive offensive. And it would be good if that could be prevented. I mean, a massive escalation in the war is not what anybody wants to see, but it's what the Russians have in mind. And I think that the latest proposal, this idea that those 4 regions that Russia has already annexed under its own laws should be ceded to Russia. And that would be the price that Putin might accept for accepting a ceasefire and fast-track negotiations. Short of that, as I said, we're headed for a big Russian offensive,
Right.
which by all that we've seen in the last year or so, will not go well for Ukraine.
Interesting. Now, ever since Donald Trump has stepped into the office in the White House, there's been a clear indication within Ukraine that Ukraine has been building up its own indigenous capacity to manufacture the weapons to fight this war. And also it is now increasingly relying on weapons from Europe. Do you think, with the Americans pushing for the Ukrainians to cede the 4 territories that Russia at this moment, although annexed, does not even fully control, and also that minerals deal that Donald Trump is trying to push through on Ukraine, do you think Ukraine is willing at all to negotiate on the terms, forget about Russia, but on the terms that are being dictated by the Americans?
I don't think that the Ukrainians are ready to accept that. No noises out of Kyiv suggest that they are even thinking about giving up territory. In fact, they are still talking about taking back Crimea. What the Americans clearly have realized or come to the understanding of is that that's impossible. In order to end this war, you're going to have to freeze the line somewhere along where the Russians are already present. So I think that, Steve Witkoff spent 4 hours talking to Putin last night in St. Petersburg. I'm sure this is what they were talking about. What would Russia need in order to accept a ceasefire? So I think we can assume that that's what they're talking about, since we don't know. But since they ended the meeting amicably and Witkoff went back to Washington, we may assume that there's progress on this front. And let's hope that there will be an end to this war very soon.
Very quickly, because we're short of time, considering the fact that these Chinese soldiers or mercenaries were captured by the Ukrainians, there are about 12,000 North Korean soldiers who've been fielded by Russia. It does appear that probably Russia is also having some issues in getting enough manpower on the field. Is there a problem with Russians fielding the manpower at this moment?
First of all, I think the presence of North Koreans and Chinese forces in any numbers is controversial. We don't see much evidence of that. But also, Russia has not yet, since 2022, launched a mobilization. It can do so at any time. It has 20 million men of military age on its reserve lists. So, no, I don't think that Russia faces a manpower shortage.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Fred Weir, for joining us with that perspective there.
Thank you.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.